Hello everyone, it is me, Coffeestitcher. It is Sunday, September the 7th, and this is episode 9 of the reboot. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to apologize. I desperately need to both shave and get a haircut, but I have been very lazy. Admittedly, very lazy. But that's okay. I'm here, and that's what matters, right? Right. Got a fair amount of things to show this week. We do have a, we've got some whips. We have a new start. We have a change to some Whipgo plans, which I will detail shortly. I have an Asher who is giving me a side eye. It's okay. And then we're going to do, as some people requested, a Wizard of Oz themed parade. So, stick around for that. All right. So, the first thing, the mentions as they were. So this week I will be completely transparent. Work was a little bit hectic in a good way. A little bit of a busier week. So I didn't get as much Flosstube watching for new people. I, of course, have caught up with my usuals, Jason X Stitches, Sheldon Stitches, Andrew the Running Stitcher, and the lovely Pam, as always, and Seashore Stitcher, the lovely Barb. And Becca is stitching. So I've caught up with most of my regular routine watches. But I did watch Woolly Woolly Sheep Shop. She is a UK, seems like she owns an LNS, but she's got some fun projects. And then Layla Stitches dropped her very first Flosstube. She does a lot of like full coverage pieces and some of the fancy lady pieces. She has really awesome green hair. Like, I am truly jealous of anyone who can get fun color into their hair to stay, but to get green to stay, that's impressive, because green doesn't always do right. So I highly recommend both of them. All right. So let's talk about everyone's favorite, the things that I worked on. And we're doing this in no particular order, I guess. So first, we've got Under the Sea. This is by the Frosted Pumpkin. And, boy, it's in the middle. A little bit like I've got the Mary Poppins bag. Where is it? There it is. This is on Many Waters by Ship's Manor. And I actually finished part 8 this time. So, well, technically I finished part 8. I did not do, there was this little piece of border that was supposed to be there, but I didn't really feel up to counting straight lines. And so I just was like, you know what, I'll wait and just tack that in and work on that when I do part 9, which is down here. So I added this little diver in green, as well as the 3 turtles, some more of the orange fish that I can't, no, those are the orange melon discus fish, and then some more of the silver moony fish. So got all of those added in. And there was one more little wave, too, that got added. So next we'll come down, we've got some more of the ground to do, and then the final border parts. There's only one more sea creature left, which I'm a little sad, but that's okay. There are some beads that are going to get added in the sand and in the treasure chest. So I've got a couple of other, like, little fun surprises coming our way. When I do finish this one, because I have gone through and I have named all of the various sea critters and people as this has gone on. So when I finish them, I will go over all of the names at that point, but it's too much to keep track of at this point. So it'll just be easier if I go over it all together at one time. So, I would not be surprised. I would expect, I don't know if this one will come back out again in September. It really depends on how the decision wheel works. If this one is not finished by the end of the year, I would be very surprised, because I'm that close. I'm right there, basically. So another 2 rotations, I think, is going to finish that one on out. All right. Then, one of my Whipgos was Farming Magic Sal by FlossyFox Shop. This is on a Fortnite Fabrics. I don't know the name of it because I lost the card. This was picked by Andrew the Running Stitcher. And I'm into part 7 of 8. And I got about half of part 7 finished. So what I added this time were the pumpkins, this fairy here, that pumpkin, the dog, most of the butterfly, some flowers, and the start of a basket. So from there, we've got the rest of the basket, a fence, a chest, there's a chicken here, and then there are some red stones, like a path, that are gonna come here. And then part 8 is here. So I would expect the next time this comes out, I'll finish part 7. Part 8, because it does have a building, and if the barn is anything to go by, it's probably going to take me three go-arounds to finish the last part of it. But we'll see. I have really enjoyed this one. I'm going to be sorry to see it go. All right. And then we're going to move you to another spot because we're going to talk about you slightly differently. Then I'll show you the new start, and then I'll show you the other thing I worked on, because the other thing I is going to be one to talk about for a bit. So I also started, I started today, I should say, Springtime Florals. It is the spring sweater wetter piece from Pickens. It is on a random green fabric that I had in my stash. It was unlabeled. It might be linen, but it could also be an even. I don't think it is, because it's got some slubs. So it's a green linen of some form that I inherited from somebody. So I've got most of the first blue bonnet done. And on these 9, so there's 14 colors. 9 of the colors I am using some botanical or natural dyed fibers for. One of them is from a dyer whose name I will have to add below because I got it off Etsy, and I realized, so she sends them on these really cute clothespins, and the colorway is called Amethyst, but I have no way to, I can throw it, apparently, but I don't remember who it is off the top of my head, but I will drop their name below. The others are from Stuart Textiles. Both of these sellers are on Etsy. Pardon me. So I'm using 9 different colors of theirs. So the dark blue in the blue bonnet is one of them, and it is apparently over there, and I'm not going to try and reach for it and disturb the dog. It's called Sea, but I'm also using Chartreuse and Sky, Snow and Pine, come on, Astra and Pansy, or I think it's actually Aster and Pansy. Like I said, this dark blue is called Sea. And then I'm using, I haven't stitched with it yet, but I'm using this one purple. And then to fill in the rest of the colors that I needed, I am using 3 color and cottons. I'm using Water Lily, Old Glory, and Mulberry. 1 Classic Colorworks, Little Pink Peony. And then Silver Fern and Green Pasture from Gentle Arts. So I wanted to try and use all botanicals for it. Unfortunately, Stuart Moore only has these 2 shades of green, and I needed 4. And the other dyer didn't have the greens that I wanted in stock. That was kind of where I ran into a little bit of I'm ready to start this, but I don't really have all the colors I would have liked, but that's okay. But I really love the idea of using botanicals on a botanical piece. So I'm really enjoying it though. It's stitching up. They stitched up very beautifully so far. So yeah, looking forward to getting a little bit more in on this week. All right. Now for the big mamma jamma. I worked on Emerald City. Now, part 2 of this is, as y'all may recall, my OwlForest one that I am converting. Those of us who have stitched the OwlForest one before, or are in the process of stitching it, those who have already stitched it will probably recall that the Witch of the North was one of the more tricky ones to stitch, not because she was a complicated, pattern, but very tedious. I remember as I was stitching her, I think it took me a good long while to get her fully stitched. Especially when the rest of it basically flew together after that. She was no different this time. I am converting this to match the design of the Sinar/Pan Media 1986 Japan, 1987 US anime. Here, of course, titled The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. They are titled Azuno Mahotsukai. Again, I probably botched that. What did I add this time? So I did finish part 2. I went back and added, or I got one of the little motifs added. I will include some of my color inspirations kind of over here as I talk about it. So the one of the trees when she gets into Oz is a really nice, blue purple, and it's got some pink to it. It's a really pretty tree, so I'll show that. That was kind of my inspiration both for this little motif as well as the flowers, because I really wanted to include those. I think I talked about that a little last time. The stars I did in a metallic orange to emulate her smoky appearance. She wears orange and yellow in the anime. I did use a darker orange to give some shape to her outfit. It's a little hard to tell, probably on camera, but when she poofs in, there is one flower that sort of falls over first, and then she sort of poofs, and the flower is caught on the edge of her skirt, and she makes a comment about a sloppy landing. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's what's going on here. So there's her leg, and so that's what's going on. I did my best to give the sort of ruffled collar effect. I think it did turn out pretty darn well myself. There was a little more over one than I would have liked to do in this one, but that's okay. So there is the Witch of the North. And then we've got the Scarecrow. Now full shout out to my friend Danielle and to my friend Vicky who let me copy her corn stalks, and Danielle for helping me figure out how to chart the crow. But here's the Scarecrow. His face is actually a blend of a pink and a cream, because I was having trouble finding the right shade for him. So again, I am embracing the concept of trying to blend DMCs to get the color I want, without necessarily going for an overdyed that's going to fade in and out of a color that I might want. which is not to say I'm not going to use some overdyes, but they're not going to be my primary goal. I did take out the fence post because I decided I really wanted to focus more on the corn. The corn in Oz itself is pink, purple, and blue. The stalks, and I had to do my best to emulate this as I could, because the stalks very clearly start as sort of a tan and they go into kind of a blue-green. But by virtue of the fact that it's got a painted background, the fact that it does that fade and has that look is less severe than it is when you've just got a couple of stalks. So I did my best to emulate it, but still have the color flow feel more organic. So I started with a more tan color, and then picked a green, and then I blended the two together. So it starts with the tan and then bleeds down into the green eventually. It doesn't show too well that that's what I've done here. Quite honestly, it's one of those things, it really doesn't pick up in photographs well, but in person, it does look really cool. So unlike LeVar Burton with Reading Rainbow, you're just gonna have to take my word for it on this one. But here we go. There is a portion of the Yellow Brick Road that I still have to stitch, but the field mice are up there, and I'm a little worried about how they're going to have to be designed, so I didn't want to have to frog. I did try out a couple other yellows, because I really wasn't overly thrilled with my Yellow Brick Road choice, but all of the ones that read as a more true yellow disappeared on the fabric. So I had to go for a gold, and I had to pick a gold that was a more yellow gold, so that it didn't go too brown, and then you wouldn't know that it was the Yellow Brick Road. It would just be a brick road. But here we go. So I'm really loving working on this. I've already got the lion pretty much designed. I've got to do the Tin Man next. He's going to be a little trickier. And then we'll kind of maneuver from there. But I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really excited to see how this is going to end itself up. All right. So that's what I worked on, with one exception. After I completed Farming Magic, my so this will transition us into plans a little bit. The wheel went ahead and picked Night Walked Down, which was my Whipgo picked by my friend Matt. And I did not have any luck with it. I hawed over where I should work, which I knew needed to be the cat. The cat is a lot of black stitching. There is also no easy way to, like, because one of the things I tend to do when I've got, like, big runs of a color is I'll do, like, a strand of that, and I'll work on something else, and I'll come back and do another strand and work on something else. But unfortunately, there's not a way to pick up another color easily from where I've already stitched. So then I took a nap. And then I got up from my nap. I stared at it some more. I still didn't want to do it. So, Night Walk Down has been removed, not entirely from the rotation. I will put it back in one more time, and if I'm still feeling the same way about it, then it gets to go back to the archives for sure. But I did reach out to my friend Matt and was like, I need you to pick something else, because I was really unmotivated to work on this one. Tried a couple of times, still wasn't motivated. Don't think it's gonna happen. Fortunately, Matt was very gracious and picked instead the Stitchers Book Club. So when this one comes back out, it'll be 750 stitches, which I think very well may finish out the Jane Austen square. We'll see. But that's the new Whipgo plan for September, is to change it over to the Stitcher Book Club style, which I'm totally fine with. So thank you to Matt. All right. Now, some of you may recall, other plans we're going to talk about here, some of you may recall me mentioning that Jessie Marie had a Great British Bake Off like stitching challenge that she was starting. And I mentioned in it that I was not going to really do the football one because I don't do football or sports really at all. However, I did decide I think that the Great British Baking Championship was going to be too involved for my stitching capacity. However, my former team at work, before I changed roles, last year we did a fantasy football thing, and I did it with the team because why not? I don't actually have to do anything. They brought it back this year, and so I got included, and it auto-drafted for me, so I really didn't have to do anything. So I'm thinking I may, and Accounting Stitcher mentioned this herself and hers, and that was kind of what got me thinking about it, so... I'll just... It is what it is with me sometimes, I think. So I'm sort of milling around what I might do. I'm thinking maybe, like, depending on how many points I get, like, because you can get a whole lot of points. So I'm thinking in, like, a week. So I'm thinking maybe one project each week will get, like, when it spins on the wheel net, whatever. What I'm kind of thinking is this, because I think the weeks go, like, Thursday to Tuesday or something like that, and then there's usually a couple days off. So whatever project is next after that week ends, I will take whatever points I had, multiply that by 5, and that will just be what that project gets. And we'll see what happens. I may stick with this. I may decide, nope, this isn't worth it. And it may not be. I really did poorly last year, so it would have really not been worth my time. I think there was one week I literally got like 20 points because I chose so poorly. So that would be all 100 stitches. So not really going to do that. But we'll see. We'll see. We will see what it is as it evolves. So, tentatively going to do a fantasy football style stitching challenge with myself. All right, let's talk about some haul, because I've got a tiny bit of haul. So first, I was out in the wild at Cracker Barrel for my mom's birthday. Found this cute little cottage core cross-stitch kit. So it comes with 4 patterns and 3 pieces of Aida that are 4x4. So those are the 4 designs that are included with the DMC for it. Gives you 1 hoop. So I thought it was cute, and it was like $10, and so I went ahead and picked it up. So I got that. And then I got the 2 things that I wanted from the most recent Needlework Market, courtesy of Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery, which is Sammy J, as some of y'all know. She has a group on Facebook, and that's where she sells through. So I ordered the Sprouting Lupine Garden of Shadows, because I thought this was really cool. And Counting Puddles Patchwork Angel. So far, all I have really done is collect her designs. I haven't stitched them, but I really like the look of them. So, eventually, I will get these things stitched. Don't give me that look. I see that sassy side eye. You can't see it, but he's giving me side eye. He's a good bear. So that was my haul. And, yeah. So all told, I did have 9 stitching days. Really, I think it was technically 10, because I think when I updated this last night, it had 9. And I definitely did 10, because I stitched today. But that's okay. Oh, I bet I know why it did that. Oh. I bet it just isn't adding it in. But that's okay. That's okay. So I did about 155 stitches today, and I know that's going to be the end of my stitching for tonight. So, that is everything based on my notes. For those of you who are interested in the Wizard of Oz parade, please feel free to stick around. If you are not interested in the Wizard of Oz parade, then you certainly do not need to stick around. I will not force anybody. But if you're going to stick around, well, then come on, let's follow that yellow stitch road. I don't really have a totally solid rhyme or reason for it, or plan for my direction. Because I've got some that are FFOs, I have some that are just finishes, and then I've got a stack of, I figured I'd show you the patterns, the physical patterns that I have in my stash. Actually, that's probably what I'll start with. So, these are the ones that have yet to be stitched. There we go. So, well, that's not entirely true. One of these has been stitched, and I think I just stuck it back in there. So we've got the Leslie Tier Oz right up front. Several of these have been stitched. The one Haid that I purchased and will never stitch. This one I have stitched. It's the Oz Quaker Fantasies by Ori TM. Apparently I'm just lying about which ones are in here, so. Tiny Modernist Wizard of Oz tree. We've got Primitive Wizard of Oz. This one is an out-of-print design by Midsummer Night Designs. I actually have like 3 copies of that one. It's a little weird, but it happens. Lottie Daw's Wicked Witch, which has the Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. Witch Old Witch, the Wicked Witch. Ding Dong, the Wicked Witch is Dead. We've got Dirty Annie's Ruby Slippers pattern, which says, "You had the power all along, my dear." The Brooks Wizard of Oz designs, which I've got finished, so you'll get to see those momentarily anyways. Prairie Moon's We'd Turn Back If You Was Us, where the Oz characters are done as bunnies. Prairie Moon's Dorothy Is My Daughter, where she quite literally just stole the Charles Santor illustration of the Wicked Witch melting and did that. There's another Prairie Moon that I actually don't think is with this grouping, now that I'm saying this out loud. Yeah, it's somewhere else. But it's Prairie Moon. Oh, actually, maybe back here. Nope, that's Prairie Moon Christmas. It must be somewhere else. There is a Prairie Moon one that is Peter Rabbit running for Mr. McGregor, and it has a bunny on a carrot skywriting "Surrender, Peter." Right. A Wizard of Oz Biscornu. This one from Glory B that says, "Don't make me get my flying monkeys." A book of the Dinslow illustrations adapted into cross-stitch. The slightly terrifying 80s Wizard of Oz cross-stitch book. Actually, I'll just pull both of these out because so you can see them. Alright, so this one has the slightly scary caricatures on the front, including the weirdly shaped scarecrow. And then it includes, I'll show you the backside because that's where they are, generic lion, tiger, and bear. This is lions, tigers, and bears are mine. A circular one that says Oz and has the Emerald City and the Four Friends, which I do like. A fairly decent Wicked Witch. The lyrics to Over the Rainbow. And then that one that says There's No Place Like Home. And this is a Graphworks book from 1987, so it's a year younger than I am. And then the Charles Craft Wizard of Oz Book 1, and I've never been able to determine or find out, is there a Book 2? Or was this Book 1 in some sort of series? And I've never been able to find out. So if anybody knows, I'd be very curious. But it's got a set of several designs. So, they're all the pattern themselves. So we've got a big one of Dorothy, then the 4 characters' faces, and then like a band that just says The Wizard of Oz. And then, almost done with patterns. We got 2 left. We've got the Little Dove Wizard of Oz that I have partially stitched and is currently chilling in the archives. And the Forbidden Fiber Co. Over the Rainbow. So that is the pattern stash. All right. Now I'll show you. Most of these you saw back when I did my finish parade, so I'm gonna just kind of breeze through most of these. One of them I did discover had been left out, so I'll show that here in a second. So, Wizard of Oz bookmark, done on some Charles Craft Ada. This one was actually really fun. I did accidentally reverse 2 of the colors in the Emerald City and didn't discover it until I was almost done with that color, and it was like 1,000 stitches, and I was like, I'm not fixing this. It wasn't really 1,000 stitches, but it was a good like 500. I was like, I'm not frogging this. The Stitchy Princess Black, and this one's on, I believe, Fairy Whispers from Die Stitch Love. The Wizard of Oz Tree by Tiny Modernist. The Dorothy's Discovery from Silver Creek Samplers. Oz Sampler from Pedal Pusher. The Wizard of Oz by Soda Stitch. And I did talk about these at more length in those, so in the finish parade, so I will spare y'all some of the details on that one. And then the Quaker Oz by Ori TM, which has gotten wrinkly since I showed it to you last, but such is life. Now, the one finish that y'all didn't see that I discovered I had not set out for y'all. This is a Bucilla stamped embroidery kit, embroidery / cross stitch kit, from, I believe I dated it to 1975, 79, and it is a crib sheet and pillow kit. So here is the pillow, and you actually were supposed to sew the thing together, but here is the pillow, which is the Emerald City. And I did use some metallic for the outline stitch, but obviously my satin stitch is the DMC. And then the sheet are our wonderful adventurers. Boop. So, no Toto in this one. No Toto. So it's just Dorothy and friends. Again, I did use a little metallic in Dorothy's shoes. And I think that was the only place I used metallic. But there it is. So this one was a lot of fun, actually, to stitch up. A lot of outline stitch, a little bit of satin stitch, and then obviously some cross stitch. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this one. Right. And then, now for my Aussie FFOs. And these are in no particular order. So this one, if I'm completely transparent, if I were to do this again, I would do some things differently because you can't read it as well as I would like you to be able to read it. But it is from Pedal Pusher, and it's the first line of If I Only Had a Brain. So it says, I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers. It shows up really well on this. It does not show up as good in person. I did do some fancy stitches for the little diamonds there and in this flower, and did some French knots there, and then I did a little turkey work rose here. Did not do anything with the bee. And then I added E.Y. Harburg, 1939. Technically it was written in 1938, but I'm not splitting hairs over that one. But E.Y. Harburg was the lyricist. And Howard Arlen was the composer. All right. Then we've got, this was actually one of my very first finishes, and the frame it was in broke. But long time viewers may remember this one. It is the Little Stitchers, The Wizard of Oz. One of the few pieces I've done on 40 count. I did it all with Gentle Arts. I did use blending filament on the H in home, the T in there, and on the ruby slippers. There we go. That was one of my very first finishes. That may actually even have... This may even have been a Mania start, now that I think about it, from the very, very first Mania. But yeah, I did do this on 40 count. One of the only pieces I've done on 40 count. I don't enjoy 40 count. I'm not really even wild about 36 count, but I'll do it if I have to. All right. Next, we've got the Brooks Books Oz characters that I turned into ornaments. So I'll kind of go over these in some semblance of order. So we've got Dorothy, and I made little braids for her. And this is actually the start of when I was doing silver shoes with red soles and bows. That was what really sort of started me there. And then, I'll try and go in story order. We've got the Mayor of Munchkinland in blue. And then our good friend, the Scarecrow, with some memory thread for his little ties, and he's got his straw. The Tin Man, who, oh, his neck is so fragile. And I did him a little more rusty. I need to find some better way of displaying these, because I'm a little worried about some of them being as fragile as they are. Then we've got the Cowardly Lion. Then we're just gonna show these three together. We've got the Winky, the Quadling, and the Gillikin, which are three denizens of Oz. Then we've got the Flying Monkey. The Wicked Witch of the West with her golden cap. The Wizard with his ridiculous pantaloons. They're fun. They were very tough to stitch, but they're fun. And then Glinda the Good. Right. Then we've got the Leslie Tier Wizard of Oz, which I finished on a canvas. There's a lot of these that are finished on canvas. And this one, actually, I cut it because I decided I didn't want to stitch it. Because while there was their legs still, there was so much of the green, and I just thought, I can't stitch any more green. So I cut that one where I did, and I don't regret it one bit. All right, this one is by JWB Cross Stitch. It's one of his famous artist portraits. It's L. Frank Baum himself. And then I added his name and his birth year and death here. I did do I basically did the called for, but I did go for, he had a darker gold in the border, for the border. And I went with a little bit lighter one, so it would be a little bit more like the Yellow Brick Road. This one, you may recall, is the Satsuma Street, which I loved as it was coming out until the final part came out. So I'll kind of walk you through. So you've got the Good Witch of the North and the Munchkins, and then my friend Imogen reversed, because we decided the two of us both thought that it looked better to have the rainbows curving inwards than outwards. So we've got the rainbows, and then we got our 4 friends in the poppy field, right? Oh no, 4 friends in the poppy field here. And I figured out, I made the Tin Man sort of rusty, and I adapted this Toto to look like my dog Phoebe. I don't really know how well that's showing up there, but that's okay. The Wicked Witch of the West, with her flying monkeys and her crows and her bees, and the silver whistle for the wolves. And then the 4 friends, all nice and happy. And then the middle was the Emerald City with the wizard's balloon, and he was the central focus. And I have a lot of trouble making the con man, who is ostensibly kind of really the main villain, if you will, of the book, which is the first American fairy tale and a feminist story. I had a lot of trouble making him be the feature. Like, it really, really, really upset me. So I instead replaced it with part of a quote from The Witch of the North that says, "Oz has never been civilized," because I liked that better. So, again, it's another one that's canvas finish. And actually, I have it hanging with the Alice in Wonderland one right below it. If Satsuma Street ever decides to do another fairy tale in a diamond pattern, I will definitely do it, just to continue the series. But there you have it. This one is not actually Oz, was not initially Oz related. But I decided to adapt this one to be a little more personal. It is Witchy Dreams from Barbara Anna Designs. I adapted, there's 3 smaller witches that I adapted to look like 3 friends of mine. And then I adapted the color scheme of the looks so that the dreaming girl is now a dreaming me. And then I added, to remove the skirt, I added Glinda's line from the end of the movie, when she says, "You've always had the power, you just had to learn it for yourself." So there it is. Purple, blue, and green are like my favorite colors. So that's the tweak there. And there we go. All right. Now these next 2 are technically, we're gonna go in reverse order. So this was my second ever finish, second ever project. I do believe this one is Little Stitcher, and it's There's No Place Like Home. And it's got the shoes, and then it's got a Dorothea Toto and a Glinda needleminder inside it with washi tape, because at the time I was still young and naive, and I put masking tape around the edges of my fabric, because that's what my mother did when she was a cross stitcher, and that's what she told me to do. So the washi tape hides the masking tape. and I'm about to sneeze, so I will put my finger down to tell me where to edit. Okay. And then, this was my first ever finish. This was the cross-stitch project that started it all. It's by Camelot Designs, and it is the Emerald City. Again, the washi tape is hiding the masking tape, but here it is. It does have a little bit of metallic. It does not have as much metallic as it's supposed to have, because at the time I didn't really know where to get it, so I got the DMC Light Effects, and I overstitched the ones that were supposed to be metallic instead of using it like a blending filament. And then, because I thought for some reason this was a good idea, not that you can really tell, but I stitched all the metallic in a different direction than my regular stitches, because I thought that might make it stand out better, but really once you get like an inch and a half, once you're like standing looking at it, you can't tell that I did it differently. I don't know why I thought that was a thing, but that was what I did. So here it is in all its glory. My very first cross-stitch piece that I completed a little over 11 years ago. So the one that started it all was, of course, a Wizard of Oz pattern. So that brings us to the end of our journey tonight. For those of you who stuck around, I hope you enjoyed taking the little tour of my various Wizard of Oz pieces. So yeah, I will be back in 2 weeks. I hope you all have a terrific 2 weeks. If there's anything you would like to see from me, please don't be afraid to throw it down there and ask, or what have you. I am happy to share my knowledge where I can. Have a good time. Have a good rest of y'all's evening or day if you're watching it in the morning. If you're watching it in the evening, please enjoy, and I'll see y'all next time.